Hi, everyone. My name is Georgette Truin. I am the host of Fight CPS with Miss G. And also, I work with attorney Vincent Davis. Um, and I deal a lot with CPS cases and families struggling to fight for their children. Innocent families daily. Before I introduce our guest today, I wanted to just say a few words. There is information, and this has been going on for a while, and I finally have proof in my hand. So in the military bases, especially in Oxnard, California, they have special units for fathers fighting for their children or trying to divorce a woman, the mother, or trying to avoid child support and alimony. So what happened is, especially if the father is in the military, what happens is they go to this special unit. It's like an attorney that specializes in helping fathers only. And what they do is they tell the fathers what they need to do to gain custody of their children and to avoid paying child support and alimony and force the mother to pay them child support. So the court system, CPS court system, is designed to be literally against moms. So what they end up doing, um, when there's a military dad, for example, who is the abuser. And remember, that man that I'm talking about is actually the abuser. And there's proof documented. The psychiatrist said that he's a narcissist and they still gave him the children. Okay, so their own psychiatrist diagnosed him as a narcissist and they still give him the children. Now his wife is paying him child support. So they knew how to get away with it. The court system made him look like a hero. And the social workers made him look like a hero. And the children attorneys made him look like a hero. And even though the mother had evidence, her court appointed attorney didn't want to submit it to the courthouse. Why
Yep.
did they not want to submit it? Because the court appointed attorneys, and I'm going to repeat this, I've been doing this for years. The court appointed attorneys get paid by the state. So her loyalty or his loyalty to you is shit.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry I said the S word, but it's true. It's poop. Because what happens is that court appointed attorney's job is to coerce the parents to admit that they're guilty. He will come to the parents, say, admit you're guilty and you're going to get your kids back.
Mhm.
Then he will
Yep.
go inside the courtroom while you're standing outside, and he or she will come back. It's like a salesperson, like a car salesperson. They want to sell you the car. You tell them, no, I'm not going to take the car with da 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 da. Then they go to their supervisor. They come back and they say, okay, well, Mr. So and so agreed to this, right? But the reason they want you to plead guilty is because they want you to be held accountable. Because there's something they don't have proof of. Okay. So when you plead guilty, that's going to save them from a lawsuit. Because if you're guilty for anything, what makes you think you're going to get your child back? It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. But they have to cover their tracks by convincing you that you're going to get your child back if you plead guilty. So please, I'm asking you from the bottom of my heart, and I pray to God that every and each one of you guys watch the show. At least inquire before you make a decision like this. I understand that some of you guys cannot afford an attorney. I get it. But there's ways for you to make your court appointed attorney work for you through an attorney that understands exactly how CPS operates. And that's what you guys need to keep in mind. Not everyone can afford this. I get that. I get that. But you need to do whatever you can to ensure that your child is protected. And do not plead guilty for God's sakes. Okay? Um, this is a very demonic entity that you're fighting. And I tell this to people all the time. demonic in ways where they make you question your own reality. Okay. And when you question your own reality, then you start questioning your decisions. And when you question your decisions, you're going to fall. You need to be confident enough to know that it makes no sense what they're telling you to do, because that court appointed attorney that I'm talking about was promoted to be a supervisor for the whole department. When they get you to do what they want you to do, they get promoted. The state is happy, the county is happy. The county made their money, the state made their money, that court appointed attorney made his money, they're happy. If you guys look at what they're driving nowadays, they're driving Teslas. I can't afford a Tesla, not in 100 years. Okay? I can barely afford my Fiat. I'm just letting you know the real truth. So if you are dealing with a military personnel and you see that he's winning and they're taking him, or his word for everything, there's a reason for that. If you know somebody on the base that's close friends with you and not with him, ask. But you also need to get the information, write it down, and then consult with a CPS defense attorney, not with your court appointed attorney. Because if you consult with your court appointed attorney, he's not going to do anything. Even the court appointed attorneys don't want to even give you, they don't want to even submit any evidence. They don't want to submit evidence into court at all. So please keep that in mind. And may God have mercy on these people's souls, really. I'm being honest with you. It's really, I knew that was happening all along in the military, but I never really had evidence. I just had communication with somebody that was in the military. It was a woman that knew someone I know. And she told me the whole story. And I mentioned it years ago on my show, but I never had evidence until today. Today, she actually gave me evidence. And I'm heartbroken that I was right. And I don't want to be right. Believe me, I don't want to be right. Jesse, we're gonna come to you later, my love. Whatever questions you have, or any one of you guys have, write it down, and I'm reading it, and I will address all your questions. Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you very much. Okay, so our guest today is Miss Faye, and Miss Faye is going to share some interesting information with us about what she's dealing with. CPS. Go ahead, Faye.
Well, in regards to what you were speaking about court-appointed attorneys, in my 4-year fight with the cabinet over my children, which is DCBS here in Kentucky, my court-appointed attorney said exactly what you said. Plead guilty, you'll get your kids back. If we take this to trial, they'll stretch this out till your children meet the time frame for adoption. And I told her, I said, absolutely not. I'm not going to plead guilty to something I did not do. And she says, well, I disagree with you. She says, I think you absolutely should, because they're not going to admit they took your kids for no reason. So I told her no. I said, no, I'm not pleading guilty to anything. So she goes in the courtroom and without me, makes me sit in the lobby while she goes in the courtroom. Now here we're allowed to go in the courtroom. So she made me sit in the lobby while she went in the courtroom. So I assumed she was going to say what I said, which is I do not want to plead guilty. But instead she went in there and pled guilty on my behalf. Once I figured out that she'd done that, I fired her. And I hired my own private attorney. And now the part that you were speaking about fathers and child support and all that, during my case with the DCBS, they went to my children's fathers and told them, well, if you sign your rights off, we won't make you pay child support. So One did and the other didn't.
But all you need is just one signature from one parent.
Yep.
That's all you need.
Yep.
And that's why they target usually the woman first, to be honest. And because the woman is the weakest link to the children. Why? Because women are emotional when it comes to their children. Well, we're emotional regardless. Men are cold, like not cold, but their emotions don't get in the way, right? Our emotions get in the way because we're connected to our children. There's a special bond between your mother and the child that no one else can ever feel that. No man can ever
Right.
feel that bond. The man feels, yes, love for his child, but the kind of love that wants to protect his child. We feel a different type of love. It's more like they become our heart, our soul, our mind, our everyday living.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's why they target the mom first. When they see that the mother is strong and that the mother is insisting on not signing or admitting to guilt when she's not guilty, then they go to the dad. Get it?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Especially if the mom and dad are together. That's very important for you to understand that. If they're together, they will target both. If, say, the dad is the abuser and for some reason the kids always stay with the abuser. If the mom is the abuser, the kid stays with the abuser. But it all depends on who you know in the court system. This doesn't happen often. Again, it's who you know or who you are sleeping next to in the court system that allows you to win, believe it or not. Especially if you're the abuser. Most likely, abusers are narcissistic people, right? Or sociopathic people. So, what they do is that they create chaos and drama, and a narcissist knows exactly how to carry themselves,
Yep.
right? Under pressure, especially if that narcissist is trained by the military. Okay. They even perfect themselves at it. So they look like the victim while the mother is the perpetrator when the mother isn't the perpetrator. And the same thing goes with mothers who are abusive. So again, the system always chooses the abuser because they believe the abuser. I can't express that more than this, but go ahead, Faye. I mean, I hope you understand what I just said.
I completely understand. Well, I want to first start off by saying that I am also a former foster child. I was in foster care in Kentucky
Mhm.
numerous times throughout my life. Um, I was told by my own social worker, sitting in her office because she was frustrated with me because she was having to miss dinner with her husband because I had acted out in my placement and she had to move me at last minute and she missed her dinner with her husband. So she was scolding me for her having to work overtime and having to deal with me being a brat and her having nowhere to put me. And so she literally said to me, she says, you know, when you have your own kids, we're going to take them too. And I just thought, whatever, you can't do that. I just rolled my eyes at her and went on. But what was I ever wrong? All it took was my biological mom, which is a narcissist and a convicted felon and a substantiated child abuser, to
Mhm.
go to the court and file a petition against me stating that I was putting my son in danger
Mhm.
because I was involved in a domestic violence relationship, which I could not get any help
Mhm.
to, you know, protect myself from. And that ultimately ended up costing me my 5-month-old baby, which was my oldest, my son. He was taken from me at 5 months old and handed over to my mother, which was my abuser, because she was substantiated on abuse due to me. And
Mhm.
then she was also sent to prison. She was living with a lady that just got out of prison that was a convicted felon and a substantiated child abuser that didn't have her children, and living with a sex offender that had been sent to prison for molesting his own daughter. So they handed my 5-month-old baby to all these criminals. That was the start of my CPS nightmare.
And what's going on right now?
Well, I'm trying to get my case, if it's even possible, to be reopened and relooked at by going through the Kentucky Ombudsman's office here in my state, trying to prove the policies and procedures that were violated, the rights, the constitutional rights of my child and myself, and the due process procedures that were violated. I don't know if I'll be successful with that, but that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, you need to also file a complaint with the U.S. Department of Justice, Civil Rights.
I'm working on it.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
that complaint, Osbonsman, whatever, I can never say that name. They're idiots. They're really idiots.
Yeah,
And
I
when
know.
they dismiss you like you are a fly on the wall, like
Yeah.
they don't care. They really, honest to God, don't care. Um,
Yeah.
but you need to make the complaint that you file with the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. You need to write it very well. Do not be emotional. And when you write the complaint, please, I'm begging you guys. I mean, I should do a show about that too. I proofread complaints you guys write. Some of you guys email me, and then after work at nighttime around 8:15 p.m. every night. I'm not joking. I start reading, and there's so much wrong with it. So I'm going to educate you, Faye, and the rest on how to do it. When you write the complaint, you can't say, my baby mama lied to the court and she told Joshua Hernandez or Joshua that I did da da da. But who's Joshua, right? You can't assume that the court is going to understand you. You can't say your baby mama. You have to address it in ways where it's professionally written and makes sense. So when you address something, if you want to mention the social worker's investigative report, for example, right? You say, Miss Nora Hernandez. She's a social worker for the Department of Children and Family Services at the Gilbert Street in San Bernardino County. Mentioned to me on August 13, 2024, that I will not have rights to my children if I don't sign a safety plan. Period. Okay. So, do you see how I addressed Nora Hernandez? I addressed her full name and her title and her department where she works. Okay. She has an office there. So, when you address your children, just say, my child, my oldest child, Joshua, 13 years old, born on, and then, comma, expressed to Miss Hernandez, the social worker, Miss Hernandez, and her title, that he wants to come home to me. I'm giving you an example, guys. Don't write what I'm saying, but I'm giving you an example. So when you address your child, full name, how old your child is, and the date of birth of your child. And when you address your mother, your father, your grandparents, whatever, your aunt, your uncle, full name, my parental aunt, my maternal aunt, Lisa Gonzalez, right? Or Oscar Hernandez, my paternal aunt, right? That means the paternal aunt from the father's side. So when you're writing it, make sure it fits, because they're not going to look at it. I've read some really horrible ones. Horrible ones. I swear I cannot express to you that if I was a judge, I would throw it away. It was so degrading and so unprofessional. It was so bad to the point where there are name callings in there. That the person that wrote it said the F word, they said the D word, they said the P word, and I'm not going to even mention what the P word is. They said all kinds of words. And they expect the judge to read that. Okay, it's best to have a professional proofread what you're going to write before you send it to the court, please, because that says a lot about your personality. I hope you understand. So, Faye, when you write yours, let me proofread it, please.
Okay.
Know what I mean? Just email it to me. And most of you guys know my email address is gat@vincentwdavis.com. That's my email address, and it's right here next to my phone number underneath my chin. You'll see my email address. So that's where you guys need to email me. And if you need to get a hold of me, you can call me at that direct number right there. So, Faye, go ahead, honey. Now you're working on the federal part, on the complaint to the, sorry, to the Department of Justice, the right division.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. Just for information, our ombudsman's office has been moved outside of the DCBS office. It's no longer under their control. So therefore, they're no longer investigating themselves when a
Right.
complaint comes through. So it's different now than what it was in the past.
That's the thing. A lot of
Uh,
people think they're going to investigate. They're not going to investigate themselves.
yeah, well, they're not allowed to do it anymore. They moved it out of the cabinet, is what it's called here, and moved it into the state auditor's office. And since it's been in the state auditor's office, it's been quite a big thing going on between the auditor's office and the cabinet, with the cabinet not wanting to release their iTwist database to the auditor so that she can do the investigations.
You nailed it. They
Hmm.
fix something temporarily, but then there's obstacles in the way to prevent them from actually moving forward, right? So how
Yeah,
is that helping the parents? It's not helping. It's actually hindering and frustrating the person handling it,
right.
because the state don't want to be caught. That's what people don't understand. That the county and the state don't want to get caught. Like Nancy Schaefer said, Nancy Schaefer, the senator for Georgia, she mentioned this, and it's true. The judges are so state judges are so used to coming the money coming in, right? Social workers bringing business in. They're not really caring about what happens. They don't care. They let the social worker recommend whatever they want to recommend. And if the judge is fair, they make sure that that judge is removed from the bench and assigned elsewhere, to criminal or to immigration or to whatever. They don't want a fair judge in there. The judges that stay there are not good judges. They're actually evil judges that they don't care about the parent whatsoever or the child. So, Faye, thank you for sharing that information, because a lot of people don't understand that, how that
You're
transition.
welcome.
Yeah, go
You're
ahead.
welcome.
Keep going, baby.
Um, okay, I'm trying to think. Um, where? Okay, so trying to think where I left off.
You left off at that that pretty much that the person make doing the audit cannot get the information from them to
Okay, yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. So I was just saying that they did that so that there was supposed to be more transparency regarding parents being able to have somewhere to go to file complaints, where for decades we've not been able to. So she's working, which is Allison Ball, which is our Kentucky auditor, is trying to work on making that possible for parents to be able to have somewhere they can go to complain, with legit complaints that things are not being done according to policies and procedures within Child Protective Services cases. So,
And then
and I've been going back and forth with the ombudsman's office for the last month, trying to get something done, and it's just a runaround for right now. But I'm thinking once she is able to obtain the database, that will change.
yeah, well, ombudsman is part of CPS, and Draw Gigi said that. Gigi, I love that name. That's my sister's name.
Mhm.
Ombudsman is part of CPS. That's why they don't do anything to help people.
Well,
Believe
they're
me,
not ours is not inside of CPS anymore, inside the agency.
I
Ours is
understand
inside
that.
the auditor's office.
Correct. And I've
Yeah.
heard that before. But what I'm trying to tell you, it doesn't matter because some of the people that they hire
It's still, yeah.
still connect with CPS. So basically, they're going to let the public know they're doing a service to them, but they're not doing a
hmm
service to them because there's connection somewhere.
hmm I
They're not
agree.
they're not going to tear the house down, Faye. There, if demons tear their house down, they have no foundation, right? If it
Right.
tears down, they're not going to be able to fight, right? They're not going to be able
hmm
to destroy. So they have to protect each other. They have to protect the foundation that started the corruption. That's why some people are end up missing if the truth comes out. The government is a very dangerous place to expose.
Right.
Okay, so go ahead, carry on.
Um, off and on throughout my life, I was in foster care on 4 or 5 different occasions. During the time that I was in foster care, I was placed in institutions, even mental health facilities, juvenile detention centers, group homes, respites. I don't know how many different school systems. Um, there might have been a handful of homes that I landed in that were nice, but the majority of them were very abusive,
Mhm.
emotionally, physically, and sexually. I was molested and raped in foster care.
Mm.
I had unusual forms of punishment used on me in foster care that I still suffer with today. Um, now, like I said, my child was given to my abuser, which was my biological mother, and her 2 roommates, which were, you know, felons and a sex offender. And I fought my mother for 9 years to try to get my son back from her. But she had gaslighted me to the courts so much, and she
Mhm.
had more money than me, that it made it almost impossible to get him back from her. So it took me 9 years to do it, but I did it. I hired a good attorney, and we fought really hard, and we was able to get custody of him back with me.
Mhm.
Unfortunately,
Oh,
unfortunately, hmm?
oh shoot! I said thank God, and then you said unfortunately,
Oh
and
yeah.
you said your
Well,
son is back with you.
oh, he is.
Oh, okay.
He is now still.
Thank
But
God.
what I was going to say was during that time, my mother died. She
Oh,
died from a drug overdose. It was on her own medication, but she died from an overdose. I was given sole custody of my son back. And this was in 2011, the beginning of 2011, sorry. And then in the middle of 2012, almost going into 2013, which was November 13th, 2012, uh, my son had decided not to get on the bus.
Mhm.
He wanted to stay home with me and the baby.
Mhm.
She had just came home from the hospital where we had been there 3 weeks with her due to her being very sick. Um, so he decided he didn't want to get on the bus that morning. And I didn't know, that he didn't get on the bus. I never had a problem with him getting on the bus ever before. And a neighbor had called me, and she said, "Hey," she said, "do you know where your son is?" And I'm like, "At school?" And she's like, "No, he's in my yard in my tree." And I'm like, "Oh, good grief." I'm like, "I'm so sorry." I said, "He must have missed the bus or just didn't get on it or something." I said, "Well," I said, "can you see him?" She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay." I said, "Well, could you do me a favor, please?" I said, "Could you, just kind of guide him up here to the house?" I said, "Because I can't come out right now because my daughter's hooked up to all her machines, and when they're reading, I can't unplug her." And she's like, "Oh, okay, not a problem." So she walks him up, and he comes in, and of course, I made him go to his room because I was upset with him, and I said, "I'll talk to you in a minute when I calm down." And so he went to his room, and in the midst of that, a friend of mine had came over to bring me some stuff because she never got to come to my baby shower. So she was bringing me stuff for the baby, and she brought some things for my son. And my son was in his room upset because I wouldn't let him watch TV or play the game. So he was being kind of obnoxious. So I'm sitting on the couch, I'm talking to my friend, I'm feeding my daughter, and all of a sudden I get this knock on my door. And so I go over, I answer the door, and it's two social workers. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay. I'm like, well, I guess I know why you're here. And she's like, yeah, we received a report. And she said, of an unattended child in the neighborhood. And I was like, okay. I said, well, I said, he wasn't really unattended. I said, he missed the bus and he didn't get on the bus, and I didn't know because he didn't come directly back home. I said, he's okay though. Nothing happened to him or anything. I mean, he's old enough that he can handle himself and not get hit by cars or anything. And she's like, well, I know. She says, but, when we get a report, we have to come out and investigate and everything. And I guess me having a false sense of security, I was in a good neighborhood. I had a good job. I had a car, a nice car. My home was fully stocked. My kids were clean. I mean, I didn't think there would be any reason for her to take my children.
Right.
And I had someone there with me at the time that worked for the police department. So I made the stupidest mistake I ever made in my entire life, and I decided to let them come in because they asked to.
But they didn't have a warrant. They didn't have a warrant to come in.
They didn't have anything. And I know when you let them in, you forfeit the warrant part of it. I get that. But no, they didn't have anything. She comes in, the one worker sits on my couch, the other one standing up, looking around. And then while I'm talking and the other worker's distracting me, the other lady that was with her in training starts going through my cabinets, going through my drawers, going through my closets, my refrigerator, just going through everything she could find to go through. And I finally stopped and I looked over. I said, could you please get out of my stuff? I said, could you stop going through my things? I said, you don't have a right to go through my private, personal drawers and things like that. And then she was like, well, I'm just trying to make sure that the kids have everything they need. I said, my children have what they need. Could you please get out of my stuff? And so anyways, and I kept continuing to talk to the worker because she was just asking a lot of different questions and stuff. But the whole time she was there, I attended to my children, changed my daughter's diaper, fed her, burped her, rocked her to sleep, put her back down in her bed. She literally, when she first came in, she went over and while my daughter was asleep at the time and stuck her finger in my daughter's diaper. And I just kind of looked at her like, excuse me? I'm like, I know you didn't just stick your finger in my daughter's diaper.
But what do you mean stick her finger? Like, did she put her finger in the poop or?
It was clean. The diaper wasn't dirty, but she stuck her finger in my daughter's diaper, like up under her private area. And I'm like, what are you looking for? And she's like, she said, well, the diaper's clean. I'm like, well, is it supposed to be dirty? I'm like, good grief. And so she did that. And then, the whole time she was there, she complimented me on how nicely dressed the children were and how nice the apartment was and how well stocked it was and all of those things and how attentive I was to my children. And then in the end, after she'd been in my house for almost an hour and a half, she steps outside with the other lady that came in with her, and they're talking where we can't hear her. And I already knew that wasn't good when they did that.
Right.
And I looked over at the lady that was there, and I said, oh my gosh, I said, I should have not let them in here. I said, I'm so sorry. She says, no, it'll be okay. And so they come back in. And when she came back in, she was like, well, I just wanted to ask, do you have any relatives that I can have names of? And I looked at her and I said, what do you need relatives' names for? I said, are you planning to take my children from me today or something? And she was like, well, no, we're just wanting to get a list of names. And I looked over at my friend and I'm like, I'm not stupid. I'm like, you're trying to remove my kids. That's what you're going to do, right? And she was like, well, she said, I do feel like that you are suffering with some postpartum depression. And if it comes to the point of us having to have you go get evaluated, yes, I would need relatives' names.
That, oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, lady, I don't have no postpartum depression. I don't know what on earth you're talking about. And she was like, well, she says, I've seen several symptoms out of you since I've been there. And
Wow. So
I'm
she
like,
diagnosed you. Okay.
yeah.
Illegally.
So, yes. And then, so they go back out, they talk again, they come back in, and she says, well, I have decided that we think that you need to go get evaluated. Because, we think you would be better able to take care of your children if you weren't suffering with these symptoms. I said, what symptoms? The ones you're making up in your head? I said, the ones that you're diagnosing me with and don't have, any kind of psychological degree to do so? And she's like, well, I'm trained in this. I'm trained to see these things. And I'm like, well, I don't have postpartum depression. And I said, I do have relatives' names, but I said, you're not going to take my kids. There's no reason. My kids are clean. This is ridiculous. And that's when my friend spoke up, and she's like, I've been with here for an hour before you all even got here. And the only thing I have seen her do is tend to her children. She says, I don't understand where this postpartum depression or psychosis or any of that's even coming from. And so she told me that she said, you're going to have to go get evaluated at Eastern State Hospital. She said, and you're going to give me the names of relatives. And so I told her, I said, so I have to do this? You're demanding me to do it? And she's like, yes, I am. And I told her, I said, well, I was flabbergasted. I didn't know what to think. I just didn't know what to think, and I guess me and her, we kind of went back and forth with each other, and it did get a bit irate. So the one worker stepped outside and she called the police, and the police came. And, I pretty much just told her, I said, look, I said, you're not going to take my kids. I said, my kids are not bruised. They're not battered. Their clothes are not tattered. I said, my house is clean. I said, my children have everything they need. I said, there is absolutely no reason for you to take my kids. She says, well, I'm going to tell you something. She says, actually, there is actually reasons for me to take your kids. For one, your son's not at school. For two, you had no clue where he was before I got here. Three, you are exhibiting symptoms just like you are right now. I'm like, because I'm upset you're going to take my kids, that's a symptom? I said, most mothers would be upset.
But wait, may I stop you for a second? Hold that thought.
Mm-hmm.
When she told you that your son wasn't at school, did you know that Camilla Harris actually made that a crime? If your child is not in school, that the parents can be arrested?
Yeah. Well, he wasn't in school because he decided not to get on the bus, and unfortunately for me,
that's not a reason to take your child. What I'm saying to you, that wasn't a reason to take your child, and also for her to misdiagnose you.
Yes.
How old is your child to have postpartum? How old is he?
Oh, well, I mean, my son, he's 22 now, but at the time he was 10 years old.
Okay, yeah.
And then the baby, my baby, the baby was she was 8 weeks.
Yeah, but again, not every mom gets postpartum, right?
Yeah.
Not every mom.
Right.
I never had it. My sister never had it. We never had it. So it depends on the person, right?
Yeah.
Depends on the person, and you can tell if they have postpartum or not. The way that you can tell is when they neglect their children.
Right.
Right.
And I was attending. I was attending my kids the whole time they were there,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
even before they got there, I was,
correct.
so a person with postpartum depression are usually kind of standoffish with their kids and not really wanting a whole lot to do with them.
Hmm.
But that wasn't me. So I was like, this is ridiculous. I said, you're crazy. I said, you're sitting here claiming things that's not even happening, you know? And
But
so
that's
anyway,
dangerous, Faye. That's dangerous, Faye. Let the people know that listening that when you talk back to them, they can create false allegations.
mhm, yep,
They will literally make it look like you are to the point where you question your reality and you start believing them. I'm not joking you.
yep.
This is true. Go on, Faye.
Now she told me, says, you're gonna give me the names of your relatives
Uh-huh.
that could put, and she knew I didn't have relatives because she knew I was raised up in the foster system. So she knew I really didn't have any relatives. I gave her names, but none of the people that she called was going to be able to take my children, and she knew that. She knew
Right.
that. And then so then she says, well, they're going to be going to a foster home. And then I really did get irate, because that's the worst thing you can tell somebody that grew up in the system, that
Right.
was treated the way I was, is that we're going to put your children through the same hell that you lived through.
Correct.
Oh, I'm sorry I said hell. um but so that happened, and so I got upset, and I said, well, over my damn dead cold hard body, are you going to take my children out of here today? And then when I said that, the cop jumped all over me and said, well, we will pack you out of here in handcuffs. And she said, you'll sign this paper and you'll go get evaluated, or I promise you will never see these kids again. And so I didn't know what to do. I mean, the lady that was there, her eyes got as big around as baseball. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. And
But what happened to the baby at the time?
she was still asleep in her crib.
No, no, no. Did they come after the baby?
No, this was the same day. All this was happening was the
I
same day that
understand
they
that, but
showed
did
up.
they come back
Yeah.
after the baby? Because usually when
No,
there's
they
a
never
baby
left my
involved,
house. They never left my house. They
wow,
removed them the same day. Yeah,
whoa,
they removed them the same day. So she had me sign the paper. I mean, I signed the paper because she told me that if I didn't go and get myself evaluated at Eastern State Hospital, that, and if I made things any more difficult than I already did, I would never see my children again. That she would make it impossible for me to get them back.
yep.
So I signed the paper. I signed the paper. They took my kids, and then I didn't have a car, so I had to ask the officer to take me to the hospital, which they did. I took myself in, signed myself in Eastern State Hospital, and they asked me why I was there. Because I wasn't suicidal or anything like that. um, uh, and they even didn't really want to admit me. But I told them, I said, look, I have to get an evaluation done, or I'm not going to get my children back. Please just admit me. And so they did. I had to beg them to admit me. And so they put me in there. They admitted me. And then normally they'll keep you for about 7 days. And instead, they kept me for 5, because a lady came up to me after I'd been there for 5 days. She was one of the nurses, and she said, what? She says, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. She says, why are you here?
Yeah.
I said, well, I really don't know, other than the fact that I had a social worker take my children away. And she said it was because I was postpartum depression with some psychosis or something. And that if I did not bring myself here and get evaluated, that I would not see my children again.
Right.
And she's like, oh my God. She said, you do not belong in here. She says, you need to get out of here. She said, you are the most normal person in here. And I'm like, well, thank you for that, because this woman's got me thinking that there's something wrong with me, And she's like, no, ma'am. She says, we're going to get you in to see the doctor first thing as soon as he walks in.
Right.
And that's exactly what she did. I saw him for about 30, 40 minutes tops. He said no. No, I don't see no postpartum depression. Neither have none of the nurses since you've been here. He says, what I do see is a stressed out mother. I see a
Mhm.
mother that has been struggling with two children with exceptional circumstances going on. And I do think that, you may be dealing with some situational depression. He says, but no, nothing that makes you a danger to yourself or to your children, and that debilitates you from being able to parent them. And so he says, I'm not keeping you here any longer. He says, you're going to sign yourself out. And I hope that you're able to go home and get your children back.
Wow.
So that's how that went. Then I went to the DCBS office and gave them a copy of what was said at the hospital from the doctor, and that he did not find postpartum depression like she said. And I said, can I get my children back? I said, you removed my children falsely. You diagnosed me with something I didn't even have to take my kids. I said, can you please give me my children back? And she's like, oh, honey, no, I'm sorry. She says, it don't work that way. She said,
Mhm.
you will be 6 months to a year or more before you'll get your children back. And I mean, my heart just dropped. I was just like,
But
wow.
you know why they keep them that long, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
because of the
Federal
money.
funding.
Yeah, the
Federal
federal.
funding. Mm-hmm.
Our
Yep.
tax dollars pays for it. People, I want to also address the people that even though your court-appointed attorney is free, but you're actually paying for it. Believe it or not, your tax dollars, my tax dollars, my Social Security fund, your Social Security, all of that is paying for these people, right?
Yep.
They're using you, abusing you, and they're stealing your children from you. That is
Mm-hmm.
that is the worst type of abuse, right? That's worse than them beating you, right? It's worse.
Yep. Yep.
Because some mothers, or most mothers, they develop a heart disease called the broken heart disease. It's actually called
I
the
was
broken heart.
diagnosed with that. I was diagnosed with that. I
A
was
lot of
diagnosed.
mothers have it. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I was diagnosed with acute heart failure due
Mhm.
to broken heart syndrome.
Yeah. You can't
Yep.
breathe. You can't breathe. You can't, as a mother, you can't breathe when your
Mm-hmm.
child is gone from your
Yep.
sight, right? They
Mm-hmm.
laugh at you. I don't know if the social workers laughed at your pain, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
social workers laugh at you when you're crying. And when you cry and beg them not to do it, they say that you're mentally unstable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's,
Now,
yeah.
oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no,
I didn't
no.
mean
Go
to interrupt you.
ahead.
Now, the after they removed the kids, I was in the hospital, right? Because she made me go there. So after your kids are removed, you're supposed to have a 72-hour hearing, which is called a shelter care hearing. And that hearing, I did not get to attend because, for one, I was in the hospital, and for two, the worker waited till the day before to send me the notice of it. So I didn't have any way to make accommodations through the hospital to arrange transportation for me to be at the hearing.
Right.
Okay, so I didn't get to go to that one. Then I fought my case with them for 3.5, almost 4 years. They took me to TPR even after I completed my return to parent case plan in 4 months. I did all the classes, completed them, showed all the certificates and everything. But the judge wouldn't let me present any evidence in my case. Anytime me or my attorney tried to put evidence in, so that there would be something on the record to appeal, he would deny it.
Wait. Your court appointed attorney, or is it somebody you hired?
Both court appointed and the hired attorney.
Okay, so
Yep.
the attorney that you hired, is it a family law attorney or a CPS defense attorney?
He's a family law attorney. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That family
Yeah.
law attorney didn't know what he was doing. I
Yeah.
apologize. But
Okay.
that's why you need, yeah, because I've seen Attorney Davis, submit evidence into court.
Yeah.
And
Well, he tried. He tried to submit it, but the judge told him no.
no, not try. See, what you need is an attorney that knows how to sue them. They
Mm-hmm.
know who Davis is. That's why they
Yeah.
have like this smear campaign against them. One of our
Right.
clients told us about this. In Lancaster, Attorney Davis has this, the whole damn court. When he's assigned on a case, they're literally having meetings when Davis is assigned on a case.
Mm.
And the client that we know that we have, she knows a person that works in that courthouse, and she showed her evidence. So whenever Davis is assigned on a case in Lancaster, they freak out because the
Mm.
attorney that's going to freak them out is one that's honest, one that follows the law, one that has a strategy to implement the law. And another thing that Davis does is he's a cool cat, but when it comes to the cross examination, literally, you will pee on yourself
Mm.
as a social worker. Because, see, he doesn't play around. He just waits until the cross examination part. Lets you think he's dumb, which he's not, until that cross examination part, and it will bite you. Not you, I'm talking about the social workers. That's why
I
they
understand.
don't want him on any cases. So, what do? They go around pretending they're clients and start smear campaigning his name.
Mm.
He doesn't care though. I care, but he taught me not to care. So I don't really give it too much anymore. But I have to put that in there to let you know that I just literally found that out like a week ago from our client. And they discourage clients from hiring him.
Well,
Don't hire
you know,
him. He never shows up to court hearings. Don't do this. He never shows up. Then who in the heck takes him to court hearings? I do. So for you, for them to say he doesn't show up in court hearings, I'm the one who goes with him in court hearings. And I'm
yeah,
not joking. San Bernardino, Indio, um, San Diego, Lancaster. I mean, we Gilbert Street, San Bernardino courthouse on Gilbert Street. Went with him numerous times, right? So for them to say Attorney Davis never shows up, I got my mileage to show it. Do you
yeah.
understand? What they do is they get so terrified of anyone having Davis. So the ones that you hired didn't know what to do. You understand? Even if the judge says denied, no, the judge knows your family attorney doesn't know what to do.
Mm.
He doesn't know codes. I'm telling you,
Yeah. I mean,
if he has
I
the world,
he was a family court attorney for 35 years, so I figured he knew what he was doing.
no, family court is different. So family court, let me explain it, Faye, if I may, to everyone that's listening. Family court is lower courts. CPS
Well,
state court is higher courts.
our CPS cases goes through family court in Kentucky.
Right. But it's in a family court building, but it's not handled as family court case.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I mean, I guess so. I just know it as family court, so
Yeah,
I
but
understand what you're saying, though.
but the, I know what you're saying, but I also asked, and that's exactly what it is. It's in a family court building.
Mm.
There's different divisions, right? So it's in a family court building. You can have family law on on the third floor, right? You can have CPS on the first floor or second floor. So what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying is the department is divided, but oftentimes when there's children involved, they call it family law.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Because they
Yeah.
think it's family, but the family are treated separately, right? They're treated separately. Dad has to have his own attorney. Mom has to have her own attorney. They cannot just stand together and agree on something, right?
Well,
Together.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well, what made me so upset is that, they made no accommodations for me to be able to be at the 72-hour removal hearing, for the children, but yet they made accommodations for the children's dad, which one was in jail, in prison, to come to the court case hearings. So they made
Wow.
accommodations for him, but not for me. And then, okay, so towards the ends of everything, after fighting for 3.5 years, they just decide they're going to just terminate my rights because, well, they could. And because they had promised my daughter to a woman that wanted to adopt her. Um, so we show up for our termination hearing on May 5th, and this was 2015. And it's 8:30 in the morning. The bailiff calls us into the courtroom. We go into the courtroom, me and my attorney do. Everybody's in there that's supposed to be in there. The names are called. Then the judge says, well, let me call a 10-minute recess. We hadn't even started the hearing or anything yet. And he says, I'll reconvene in 10 minutes. He says, but Miss Manny, I'm going to have to ask you to step out in the lobby. And I'm like, okay. So I had an advocate there with me and 2 other people, and they were there in support. And so I sat out in the lobby. 10 minutes passed. No calling me back in. I sat out another 10 minutes. Then finally an hour and something had passed. And I kept asking the bailiff, well, is he going to call me back in there? Is he going to call me back in there? Or can I just go back in there? He's like, no, you have to sit out here. I'm like, but this is my hearing. Why am I not allowed to be in there? I was like, are they doing this without me? That's not fair. And he says, well, ma'am, I don't know. He said, I don't know why the judge is having you sit out here.
What do you mean he doesn't know? What do you mean?
He said
Anyway,
he didn't know.
Secret hearings. They have secret hearings, but only the court-appointed attorneys can go to.
Yeah. I mean, I was told I had to be there, and I showed up, and I was called in, and he took my name. I had to say I was there and all that. And then after that, they told me, well, I'll call a recess and you'll go sit in the lobby.
There you go. I mean, in the court report, it shows that you were present when this happened. See, it makes you look like you were already inside the courtroom, and this happened.
Yeah, but they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing, and they knew what they were doing was illegal.
No, they do whatever they want. I'm being honest with you.
And then they came out. My attorney did an hour and a half or so afterwards, and said, well, the judge has decided. And I said, excuse me, he decided what? And he's like, well, he's decided on the case. And I'm like, without me, I wasn't allowed to be in there. You're my attorney, and you thought that was okay.
Right.
I'm like, wow, okay.
Right.
I didn't say what I wanted to say to him because I would have gotten arrested because I was in a court building. But I was not happy. I was very upset. I mean, I was just upset. And then he says, well, here's the deal. He said, I think we would have a good chance on getting your son home. He said, your son is not doing well. He has lost, a lot of weight. He's at least a third of his body weight. He is on 8 psychotropic drugs. His kidneys and his liver aren't doing well. You've even said he's been, sent to the ER for urinating straight blood. Okay. He's anemic. And he is failing in school, and every placement he's been put thus far, he has disrupted him. So nobody wants to adopt him. He says, so I think we have a awesome chance getting your son home. He says, however, your daughter will not be coming back home. She's not, they're not going to take her from the foster family because she is attached to the foster family, and the foster family is attached to her. And the judge feels that he would do too much mental damage to her to remove her from that family.
Right. That's in every courthouse, everywhere, just to let you know. The judges always say that. That's why they always postpone cases. If you notice, they would postpone your court hearing. Keep postponing it. And then before you know it, 12 months passes.
That's what they did.
Calling the foster mom, and the judge. Yeah. And what really makes me angry, and I really have no respect for judges because they misuse their title. Okay? What really makes me angry is that the judge knew that it's not the mother's control or the father's control that the child had to remain there. The judge knows that the social worker refused to place the children with family members. The judge
Yep.
also knows that the family members were either asked to be foster parents and they alienate them and divide them away from the parents to make them hate each other, and then go back and recycle the kids and then put them in other foster homes, right, to adopt, because their aim is to always adopt, 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 adopt. And then that
Yep.
family member that became a foster parent will have a record of child abuse on them, and their license is revoked.
Well,
So what I'm saying is, what Faye is saying also is that it's not new to anyone that the judges will say that. The judges say this all the time. But like I said, say you need an attorney that understands those types of strategy. And what I just said, Attorney Davis will say it better. Okay?
well,
I'm seeing
well,
informations right now. He doesn't. But go on.
so what happened is that basically the judge said that I could get my son, but I would have to give the foster mom my daughter. Or if I didn't want to do that, he could go ahead and TPR me on both kids, and I wouldn't get either of them. And I knew that my son would not survive uh, six more years in the system. He just mentally couldn't, and he physically couldn't. And I was worried about him because, I mean, they had him doped up on all these drugs, and these drugs were literally killing his organs. And I knew that he probably wouldn't survive it. Not many people do survive it mentally or physically. I mean, it's hard. It's hard for a person that don't have exceptional needs. So, and my son was like, Mom, please get me out of here. Mom, please get me out of here. I want to come home. I want to come home. Every time I seen him, he was begging me, Mom, please get me out of here. So my conscience was just like, how do I do this? How do I look my son in the face and say, I'm not going to bring you home, because if I do that, then I won't bring your sister home.
I know.
So I had to make the choice to let my daughter go so that I could save my son. And that was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my entire life. And we still suffer from it, even today.
See, I understand what you're saying, because if you're a bad mom, they wouldn't return your older son and keep it.
Exactly.
But because the baby is sellable,
Yep.
they sold your baby. You have to make a decision, and they keep the decision on you to make. They tell you the decision is up to you, as if you have a choice.
Right.
You don't have a choice. Your choice was to have both kids back.
Yep.
But if you're a bad mom, they wouldn't give you one back and keep the infant.
Well, here's the kicker. After I got my son home and everything, and he'd been home for a few years, I took in a boy for a friend of mine. And, well, he wasn't like, I didn't have any custody over him or anything. He just kind of came and lived with us. Well, his parents got turned into CPS, and CPS said because I didn't have any paperwork that they was going to have to put him in a foster home. They put him in a foster home, and then probably 3 or 4 months after he was in the foster home, he got to, telling his foster parents and the social worker that he missed his mother, which he was saying, me, I was his mom, that I was the best person for him because, I always treated him like he was mine, and that he missed my son, which was to him his brother. And so he kept telling them that in therapy and everything. He says, I want to go back home to them. They were good to me, and I didn't want to leave them, and I'm not happy here where I'm at. And, so I was lost a child due to them claiming that I guess I wasn't fit enough to raise her, but I was fit enough to raise my son. Then they take a foster child that's no blood relation to me and place him in my home on the weekends so he can visit with us.
That again, that right there. I mean, you're not a bad parent. Okay, you're not. You know you're not a bad parent. There are worse parents out there that their boyfriends, mothers' boyfriends are molesting their children, you know,
Yeah.
and doing stuff to them that's not right. And the social workers don't want them because they're damaged goods.
Yeah.
That's why you hear
Yep.
it on the news. The child died in the boyfriend's hands or whatever, or the mother's boyfriend did this and that, or the father's girlfriend did this and that to the child. But then the neighbors will say, we reported it to CPS like 22 times, 21 times, 11 times. And
Yep.
CPS write in the report unfounded. But did they actually go inside? The neighbors will say no. We've never seen a social worker go inside, right? But they write in the report unfounded. That's exactly the orders they get from the supervisor.
Yep.
I've seen that with my own eyes. With the two whistleblowers that I have, they showed me the text messages from the supervisors telling them their damaged goods, move on to the next one. Like
Yep.
they are pieces of trash.
Yep. Well,
So,
we
oh,
reported the sex offender that was
ooh,
living in the home with my mother to CPS, and they went out. They went out to do their investigation. They pulled everybody's IDs that was in the house and ran backgrounds on them. They saw that the man living there was a registered sex offender living in her home with her, registered to her address. But the social worker, instead of her removing him from the home, telling him he could no longer stay there or else she would remove my son,
right.
she wrote a safety plan and had the grandma, which was my mother, sign the safety plan stating that it was okay for the sex offender to reside in the home with the grandma and the grandson as long as she doesn't leave the child alone with the sex offender. Yeah. This is all in their own paperwork. I have
I
all the
know. I'm not.
paperwork.
I understand. I'm not surprised. I believe you. But
Yeah.
it happened in New York. It happened in New Jersey. They put two kids, 9 and 11, in a sex offender's home that was a foster home, and they were trafficking the children. They did not find out about it until 5 years later.
Doesn't surprise me.
And the social workers would write down in the report, they visited the home, everything looks good, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but the kids also disclosed that they told the social workers. They told the social worker. They called, one of them got a hold of a phone, called the social worker and told her that they are being trafficked and they
Yeah.
have to do it. So that's why I told you guys it's important to get your children back home, no matter what you have to do to hire the right attorney. I'm not
Yep.
telling you to go, physically hurt someone. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying do whatever you can, contact your family and friends to get an attorney. Okay? And don't talk to the social workers. Remember this, when you have an attorney, your attorney should tell you never to speak to the social worker without them.
Yep.
Whether it's on the phone, I've seen Attorney Davis, I've made appointments for him, and social workers and their attorney, where Mr. Davis is on the speakerphone, right? And I'm on the other line and hearing what the social workers are asking our clients. And every time she asks our clients something, Attorney Davis says, I object. I object. You can, not I object, I'm sorry. You can't answer that, or my client is not going to answer that. You know, my client's not, don't answer that. He will say, you know, uh, Jessica, don't answer that. I'm just giving you an example. Or my client is not going to answer that. Get it?
Yeah.
Because they ask you things that your attorney should know is going to hurt you.
Right.
right? So that's why they hate it. They hate the fact when Davis is involved, he does this. He does
Yeah.
this. He tells us never to speak to them, and then they have to now go through the trouble to see when their attorney is going to be available according to Attorney Davis' schedule. Get it? They go by his schedule and they accommodate. Do you understand what I'm saying? They hate him because they have to accommodate him. They want things to move like this, but Davis being involved is not going to move like this. It's not going to move in their favor, right? If you really think about it, when your attorney allows you to speak to the workers, your attorney doesn't give a crap about you. Court appointed attorney tells you to accommodate, I mean, no, sorry, to follow what? Uh, what's the right wording? What did your court appointed attorney tell you to do? Follow the social
Um,
workers.
oh yeah, yeah. They told the my court appointed told me that I needed to just go ahead and stipulate. That way we wouldn't have to go to a trial. And I said, no, I'm not stipulating to neglect. I'm not doing that. I said, because I'm not guilty of that. My children were not neglected. And I'm not going to come in here and stipulate to something that did not happen. And I also wanted to mention something too. When I finally did get to go to a court hearing after I got out of the hospital with my kids, I left this part out and I probably shouldn't have. Is the next hearing we had, I got to speak with my attorney, and I told the judge that the removing social worker lied in her report. She said that I didn't have custody of my son when she removed my kids, and I'm like, okay, that's not true. I said I have papers that states I have custody of my son, and I said, and how would I have been able to put him in school and did all the things I'd done if I didn't have custody of him? I mean, like, duh, common sense. And so I handed the papers to the judge, and I said, "You're the one that signed off of them, Your Honor." And he's like, "I did." He said, "Well, let me see." And I handed him the paper. And he says, "Oh, well, I guess I did." And I said, "Yes, Your Honor." And he says, "Okay." He says, "Well, then this is what we'll do. We'll change." And this is where my attorney said he was wrong. He changed my son's neglect to dependency. My attorney said if he was going to change one child to dependency, he should have changed them both because they were both removed on the same day together for the same exact reason.
That's exactly it.
But he knew what he was doing because they only wanted my baby.
Yep, that's it. They only wanted the baby. They don't, and that's exactly right. When they remove both children the same day, if one is
Yep.
returned, the other one has to be returned.
Yep.
I have to give you back both of them, not keep one.
Yep.
But again, it's all about funding. That's all it is.
Yep.
Um, I want to ask you one last question because we have to call it a day in the
Okay.
show. Do you know where your daughter was adopted? Who adopted
I,
your
I
daughter?
know. I know them. I know the foster mom's whole family. Yep.
And do they send you pictures of her or some
No,
kind of?
no contact, no pictures, no nothing. Not even with my son. Nothing at all. Nope.
And do you have you tried to hire a private investigator to find out what school she goes to, or
Well, I know what school she goes to. I know. I know what school she went to for middle school, kindergarten, and now middle or elementary school and middle school. And I know all of the members of her family, and I know what county they live in and everything.
it's not really
Yeah,
her family? They're fake.
I know.
They're
I
fake
know.
family. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But how old is she now?
She will be 12 October the 5th. So,
Your child is going to be
I've been fighting for forever trying to get this case reopened because it was done so horribly bad, and but I don't know if I'll ever be successful at it. But I'm going to go to my grave trying.
don't say that. Um, your child is going to be at age soon. Okay.
Yeah, but the woman that has her has been putting in her head since she had her that I was a horrible mother, that her brother was a bad boy, that he was dangerous, this, that. I mean, she has just totally filled her head with junk. So, she probably won't even have an interest in wanting to know us.
But let's do a special show for your child.
Okay.
Let's do a special show. Let's make it in order from beginning to end.
Okay.
Just you talking,
Okay.
right? A special show for your child. And the reason I'm saying that is because one of our old clients from 2 years ago, she did a special show with me like that. And her son, because they did the same thing to her, they took one child and gave her the other. Her son was 17 and a half, about to be 18. And she did a special show. And all she did was found someone that he knows in that school, high school, and gave them a flash drive. She downloaded it on a flash drive and gave it to her son.
Okay.
And her son found her. She didn't give him the address, she didn't give him anything, she just gave him that. And her son
Yeah.
found her when he was about to attend college, Northridge, Cal State Northridge. So,
Yeah.
and the son left his adoptive family and didn't even want to take his clothes with him
Mm.
and vowed to take care of his mom. And that's when his father died of cancer. He vowed to take care of his mom, and he became a very successful financial advisor. And his mom still lives in a very beautiful home in Malibu. And he divorced his adoptive family because they lied to him
Oh.
about
Well,
his. Yeah.
they tried to make it seem like I was stupid. They
Mhm.
tried to the court. They tried to make it seem like I was learning disabled, mentally ill. I mean, it's just all kinds of stuff. And
Yeah.
then um, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Uh,
It's okay.
I was going to say something, but I forgot what it was now. But yeah, they tried to make me look like but most people that talk to me can tell that I don't have any learning disabilities, that I'm not mentally ill or crazy or any of those things, but they sure
But
tried to
if,
make it look that way.
but if you were, like I said earlier, they wouldn't give you one child and keep one. Come on, stop.
Yeah.
You're not.
Well,
They're gonna
oh,
say
I
you're
remember.
crazy because they're crazy. Right.
Right. I remember now what I was going to say. They said that, well, if the son goes back home with mom, he's probably going to end up in prison. He's probably going to have, 3 or 4 kids, and he's probably going to be this, that, the other. But yet, my son is fixing to be, 23, and he has no criminal record. He has no children. He stays at home most of the time. He's not out getting in any trouble. He don't drink. He don't party. He doesn't do anything other than just what interests him.
Wow.
So but here's the funny part. The foster mom that has my daughter, the adoptive mom, her son got married under the age of 18 with her permission because he knocked his girlfriend up. She was the better mom though.
Wow.
Yeah. I appreciate you letting me tell my story.
And actually I want to, like I said, I mean it, but you're gonna have to remind me because I have a million and one people to call.
Right.
I
Okay.
want you to remind me, Grace, let Grace know that, well, Grace is hearing. I hope she's hearing me. But I want to do a show with you, just you, and just you go from A to Z and save that
Okay.
because you just don't know, right? You
Right.
don't know. You don't know. So
Yeah.
again, you don't know how your child feels. You know, you have any idea that children who are adopted that came to me and grew out of the system, they would tell me stories. They would say things like, I would cry at night when they take the kids from infant years. They would say like when they were 4, they would cry at night and they would dream of a woman holding them that's not their mom.
Mm.
They literally dream, and I'm telling you this, and I have, look at this. I'm not joking you. I have goosebumps. My hair is standing up. Like you guys, I'm not joking. They tell me stories that they know something is not right. Something is not right. They're missing something because there's a bond between child and mother, like I told you guys earlier. The only time um, that bond, I mean, there is a bond when your mother is alive, also, but as an infant and the mother still lives, and they grow older. The infant grows, the child grows older. They know that this woman is not their mother. I guarantee you 100% they know this woman is not their mother that adopted
Yeah.
them. The love is not the same. It will
Yeah.
never be the same. They're
Right.
using that child for income tax.
Yep. Oh, she made a lot of money off my daughter. She was able to divorce
Yep.
her husband during the case with my daughter
Yep.
because she was cheating on him with her ex-husband. So, and then she remarried him, like I think a year before my daughter's adoption finalized. But they were able to buy big, nice cars and big, nice houses and all kinds of stuff
They
that
got a
she
lot of
didn't
money.
have before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They get a
She
lot
filed
of money.
bankruptcy. She filed bankruptcy during my daughter's case. Yeah, and then after she had uh, adopted her, they went and bought new cars, new houses, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, they use the kids for, their own gain. Remember that. They use the kids. It's up to the child if they want to be successful in life, right? That the story
yeah,
that I'm telling you earlier is a young man that wanted to be successful. He wanted to live on his own. He didn't want to live. He knew something was not right in that home. He
yeah,
knew something was not right because the love is not there, and they were treating their own children different than him. Okay, so he
right.
was determined to do good at school. He was determined to go to college. He was determined to make something of himself. So he would never ever depend on them.
Yeah,
Again, it depends on the child and it depends on the home the child is in. It depends how the child feels. But most of the children I spoke with, I call them children, but they're not children. Jesus. Some of them are 36, some of them are 42, some of them are 28. So according to them, um, they all had the same story, the same feelings, but in different counties and different states. Okay, so all the kids, and I know that's a connection that is heavenly given to us. You never lose connection with your child. You will see your child in the middle of a crowd, even if you haven't seen your child since birth.
yeah.
I guarantee you. Watch and see. Watch and see, Faye. I really want you to come back. I want you to come back.
Okay.
You're going to have a story to share when you do see that happen in your life. Okay? And let's discuss it with Grace and ask Grace when we're going to do that. Okay?
Okay.
Um, Again, I'm gonna forget because I have a million things to do. But you have better access to Grace because I have a lot of people to call today. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And Faye, thank you so much for joining me today. And I can't wait to
You're
see you.
welcome.
And also, I want to let you guys know, which I've done the first one with Attorney Davis a couple of days ago, I believe. So there's a net live Zoom with Attorney Davis, right? So it's going to be the next one is going to be on Wednesday, August 28th at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it's a live Zoom, and then all you have to do is click on the link. It's called the School, SKOOL. I'm going to send you the link right now. Hold on. Uh, they have like a single event and they have membership events, right? So Attorney Davis came up with this because there's a lot of family members that can't afford hiring an attorney. When you can't afford hiring an attorney, you're stuck. You don't know what to do. So Davis put it together where you have sessions with him every week. And then you address, depends on what membership you wanna sign up for. You would address one on one with him, your case, and he will tell you what paperwork you need to file and what you need to attach with the paperwork. Okay, so again, it depends on the membership that you sign up for. So I'm going to post the links here, and Attorney Davis will also help you court appointed attorneys. Okay, there's a way to help you court appointed attorneys. Oftentimes you guys like to call them. Don't call them, text them or email them. You
Yep.
need to have paper trace of these court appointed attorneys because they are wrong. But when they tell you to sign that you're guilty to get your child back, they don't want to put it in writing. So you ask them to put it in writing. You ask them to document it in writing and sign it and date it and then give it to you. Okay?
What can I say one more thing, Miss She, before we go?
Of course.
Um, so the social worker that was over my children's case, she was just arrested in December of last year for beating up her own kids. She goes to trial set October 19th of this coming October for that. Yeah,
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, repeat that one more time.
My children's social worker on our case just was arrested in December of last year for beating up her children. She is got trial coming up, I think October 19th for that. Yeah.
Um,
And I'm going to
that's
go
public.
watch it.
Wait, that's public records, right?
I'm going to be there and I'm going to watch it.
I want you to send. Okay, just give it to Grace. The
Okay.
social worker's full name,
Okay.
the case number,
Okay.
all that information I need.
Okay.
All right. We
All
going to
right.
talk about this. This is very important. We're gonna talk about this. So please again let Grace know about the special show, and um, yeah, I think that's important. That's very
Okay.
important. Okay. And
All
I'm so
right.
sorry, but that's a perfect example on what I don't like to call it karma because it's not karma. It's God, really. God doesn't create anything bad in our lives. We create it, right?
Right.
We create it. So, but God always exposes the truth. I have seen people who act Christian and they're not